Hello, once again, this is Adam Sullivan. I'm the creative director at Kanary Solutions, and today we're going to demystify Adobe Illustrator files. So, at some point, you or somebody on your team may have digitally delivered to a print vendor a packaging file or something like that, and the printer came back to you and said, could you please give us an Adobe Illustrator file instead? That probably means that you sent them some other format like a PDF. Most people have heard of PDFs, or maybe the whole package was a JPEG or a PNG or something like that. And none of those things are ideal. So let's just kind of dive in. It's a lot easier to show than to tell. So let's take a look at a file and I'll help you understand why these printers really like Adobe Illustrator, and whether you're printing home or abroad, that's going to be the deal. All right, let's take a look at my desktop here. Now you'll see that we have a file highlighted. It's for a brand called Rivian, and it is their box for their serum. And it has .ai after it, which means Adobe Illustrator, which is a little confusing because now that AI has kind of taken over our world, they're sharing this suffix, and graphic designers hate that. But anyways, let's open it up. All right, so here it is. Now, if you've watched my previous video, you'll know that Adobe Illustrator is primarily done in the domain of what's called vector graphics, and we won't go into that in this video other than to say that vector graphics, as opposed to pixel-based graphics, are very, very clean. You can do the tiniest little piece of typography that you can imagine, and it'll print beautifully and be very legible. You can print the biggest banner that you can imagine, and that logo will not turn to pixels. It'll look really great. So that's enough said about that, but let's kind of dive into what I think is a more important aspect of designing in Adobe Illustrator, and this is why the printers really want you to deliver the file to them in this fashion. It's all about the layers, and if you follow my cursor here, you can see that I have this palette open that has these layers in it. Now, if we take a look at a portion of this box, you'll see that we have these pink lines, which, as you can guess, probably specify where that printer is supposed to cut that box out into its final shape. And then you'll also see these little dotted blue lines, which, as you can also guess, probably means where they're going to fold that box into its final shape, right? Okay, cool. So the problem can be that if you deliver them a file that is somehow flattened, be it an image or a PDF or what have you, is that those pink and blue lines, they become part of what gets printed. And obviously you don't want that. You don't want to see these pink and blue lines on your final packaging. It's great that you're showing the printer what to do, but you don't want those on there, you know? So basically when you're designing in Illustrator, you have control over what is on what layers. And so you'll see here that if you follow again my cursor, we have this cut layer and this fold layer that I can simply turn off. And most printers will just know that if they see something in these loud fluorescent colors, like you see over here in my color palette, that are called die cut and fold, that they don't need to print those, and they can just turn those off and they go about their day. Likewise, a lot of nice print packaging will have what's called spot colors on that. And what that means is that rather than relying on your typical printing that's made out of 4 colors, little tiny dots of 4 colors, you're going to have a custom ink mix. So for this brand, Rivian, they have, if you follow my cursor, this Pantone 494C, which is a system to specify colors. And that's a custom mixed color, like they're mixing a can of paint at the hardware store. So your entire label or your entire package is going to be a uniform smooth coat of that color. It's going to be vibrant. It's going to be beautiful. Again, that printer needs to know where that happens, and it needs to be separated from everything else. And you've probably heard the term separations when it comes to printing. So here, once again, if you follow my cursor over to the layers palette, you'll see that we have this particular layer that deals only with the Pantone color. And in fact, if we click on that, you can see that it highlights over here. So once again, the printer will see that and say, okay, that is their custom color, and we're just going to print that right there. And then everything else, as we turn these layers on, kind of layers on top of that. The black ink, the white, places where the ink isn't, and so on and so forth. So for getting something printed clean without any artifacts or mistakes or whatever, it's very important for them to have these files where they can simply separate everything that gets printed out into its own layer, and it goes onto paper that way, and there are no mistakes. So I hope that helps clear things up. Thank you for listening. There'll be more videos on more things later.